The Black Lives Matter movement is one of the most talked about movements in our society today because it is an ongoing movement that is taking place at this very moment all around the world. The video I would like to quickly address is a TED Talk given by Speaker Kennedy Cook called #Black Lives Matter, addressing why Black Lives Matter and the purpose of the movement. Ms. Cook briefly begins by explaining the reasons behind this movement and why we say Black Lives Matter. This movement all began after the murder of Trayvon Martin, a young 17-year-old boy who was murdered by George Zimmerman and who never received the justice he deserved when Zimmerman was prosecuted in court for the murder of this 17-year-old boy. And he was acquitted of the charges because of self-defense. That day, America watched a murder get away right under their noses. Then again, the same thing occurred to the 12-year-old Tamir Rice, as he was shot and killed by the police as he played with a BB gun. Ms. Cook then goes on to mention the different statistics studies have shown over the course of years, yet the killings do not stop. I believe that this video ties in with chapter 3 because throughout our history, we find ourselves starting movements to better the lives of non-whites and minorities, to let our voices be heard, and to make change once and for all. It is important to address these racial injustices because the fate of our country lies in our hands. Without proper change, we are allowing for these injustices to take part in our society today as if it's okay for our neighboring cities to go through immense mourning and heartbreaks. Throughout history, we have read and heard more than a handful of stories, but the fact that the same problems that existed hundreds of years ago continue to exist today is the reason why the Black Lives Matter movement is needed. With an ongoing pandemic, I believe that it has helped encourage the movement because of the day-to-day pause on our routines. Also, with the tragic death of George Floyd caused by the police officers in Minneapolis earlier this year, America responded with protests all across the U.S. during this pandemic. Personally, I am frustrated with the current events that are happening around the U.S. involving this issue because of all of the unnecessary violence and murders that continue to rise. After reading chapter 3, I gained and refreshed a lot of information. Some of that information that could potentially help educate others would be that all of the slavery, even though slavery has ended and African Americans have gained the right to vote, all non-white groups continue to fight their battles after battles while white Americans live at ease. A policy that I believe should be implemented should be that police officers should not have the right to kill anybody in the first place. As a young adult that recognizes her privilege, I believe that I have the power to advocate for my brothers and sisters through the use of social media by spreading awareness to those who may not necessarily be up to date with our current issues.